Some time ago, I made a video about a Lotus Elan that had been converted to an electric vehicle using old Tesla batteries, and it provoked some mixed reactions to say the very least. Some of you thought it was genius and others were damn right outraged. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link to that video in the description. But whether you like it or not, electric is now the powertrain of choice to lead the future of almost all the major OEMs. Restrictions like London's ULEZ are now becoming common in global cities and are likely to be imposed in smaller city centres as well. And as a result, even us die-hard motoring enthusiasts can't ignore the advantage electric vehicles can offer us. For those of us who drive in city centres then, that means that we'll have to stomach the emissions charges or get a newer compliant electric vehicle sooner than we might like.
But I can't stand modern electric vehicle design, it's so generic. I hear you, but fortunately now there is an alternative. There are a number of companies which will take all manner of cars and convert them into fully electric vehicles. And as with everything in life, there's a scale. Tipping the very end of that is Lunaz Design.
Lunaz was founded in 2018 with the ambition to create the most luxurious, bespoke, fully electric vehicles, and in doing so, further the legacies of the most beautiful cars in the world. Naturally then, when Lunaz invited us to take a look around their new factory and meet their founder David Lorenz, we leapt at the opportunity.
David, thank you for having us here today.
Fantastic to have you.
It's just incredible to be here. I can't believe what you guys have built in such a short space of time. It's amazing. Can you remember the moment that you decided to start Lunaz? What was that journey for you?
I can remember it very clearly because it was my wife having a go at me for taking out a 190 SL with my 3-month-old daughter in the car, and she warned me don't do it, and I did, and I obviously had a slight issue and had to call her to come pick my daughter up. And honestly, it was that moment where I decided I want to address the usability of classics.
Yeah.
And really closely following that, I saw that electric E-Type, and the two ideas just clicked together at this market.
So how do you then go from that moment of inspiration to this, where we are now in this fantastic facility that you built?
Well, it starts with the team, and obviously I needed the technical leadership to really drive a company like this forward. And I traveled around Europe, went to the US, looked at people within this space, whether it was the commercial space and also the passenger vehicles. And by pure chance, luck, was looking for the right thing. Fate, John Hilton was kicked off an airplane the day before and sat next to me on his way to Spain, and we got talking over a Supercar Driver Club magazine because he was a member and I was a member. And he went into his history of being ex-technical director at Renault, winning back-to-back championships with Alonso. And I was like, oh, you must have some contacts within the powertrain EV space. And he then went on to say, oh, I created my own company leaving F1, taking the KERS system, which took the hybrid system from Formula One and mainstreamed it and built some of the quickest hybrid vehicles, which I can't disclose, and also commercial vehicles using the hybrid system like refuse trucks and buses. And I was, the moment clicked that
this is it.
It had been delivered next to me, and John had retired, so he sold his company in 2016, far too young to retire, and I pitched to him 3 times, he kept declining me, and on the 3rd time at his house when we returned to the UK, he said, if we do things correctly, and you really let me go with building the powertrain that I want to build, I'll go into this with you. And from that moment, I've run with it, and I've run with it as quickly as I can.
Absolutely. So you find John, you find someone who's capable to sort of work on this technology, engineer this technology and put it into cars. How do you then go about finding the first car to start with, and what was that car, and why did you choose it?
Yeah, for me it was the Jaguar XK120, and there was no choosing method to that. That is my most beautiful car in the world. For me, it's got the lines of the Bugatti. It is, you'll see one just up over here.
Just over there,
It is the most beautiful car in the world with those lines.
Stunning.
That aesthetic beauty will never be repeated. So I wanted to start with what was close to me, and we started with the XK120, but then I also wanted to proof of concept and also surprise John. So when we founded the company, it was all about building a modular powertrain that can be used across all vehicle platforms, whether it be airport vehicle, to a classic car, to a fire engine. So what I did is, while we were building the first prototype Jaguar XK120, I surprised the team with the Rolls Royce Phantom V at the back there, an 8-seater limousine, completely different weight specification, completely different car, and I said build them side by side. So it was going from a 2-seater sports car to an 8-seater limousine for 2 very different purposes, but built with one powertrain.
Let's go over there, let's have a look at the XK120 and let's just talk about a couple of the challenges or kind of things you encountered as you sort of developed the technology and put it into that car.
Yeah, so here what we do is, I don't tend to build one-off vehicles. We do one special car a year, which is one-off. Otherwise, we build prototypes, iron out everything within that vehicle and then go into production with that vehicle. So what you'll see around the factory today is there's XK120s, 40s and 50s, coupes and roadsters in build.
Yeah.
And we have now productionized each vehicle run. So we've got the Jaguar series, the Rolls Royce Phantoms, the Rolls Royce Clouds, the Bentley S series, and then a few to be released. But the Range Rovers you'll see around as well.
Yeah. So we're going to take a look at some of the other models which you're working on, but it's not just the powertrains that you're sort of implementing into this car. It's all manner of different sort of skills that you employ here. So talk me through some of the rest of the things that you do.
Yeah, so here there's now just over 100 people working here. It's really grown this year considerably, and we've just obviously released quite a few new positions. But you've got a mixture of elements. You've got the trim shop, handcrafted, beautiful work being done. You've got the battery build area, power electronics, wiring looms done inside. You've got fabrication, restoration, paint shop over on the corner over there. And then obviously the technicians down the middle of the row, and then you've got the design studio. And what you haven't seen yet, but we'll see at the end, is what's behind Lunaz, which is actually the engineering office, which is really behind closed doors. Everyone gets to see this side of the business online, but no one actually understands the core of the business, which is on the engineering front. And that's where we've split to go down the commercial route and the classic route with the powertrain that we've developed.
Yeah, so it's not just sort of the engineering and technology, but it's the preservation of sort of the craftsmanship of these things.
Exactly, and you have to, we have to understand, how do you protect these legacies for future generations?
Yeah.
And I've got a love for classics. This is why I started with classics.
Absolutely.
John and I were at the beginning when we founded the company saying, should we start with commercial vehicles, which he understood that space. I wanted to go near the classics because I wanted to come to market with a beautiful product that I knew would have the marketing impact that we could have and would carry the commercial vehicles through.
Yeah.
But this aesthetic beauty that you have with these vehicles will never come back, and you have to retain it.
Absolutely.
And you have to give it for a future generation, which have a different viewpoint on what is acceptable to drive.
Sure. And so how many vehicles will you produce here every year? Because this is grown and grown quite quickly, isn't it? So clearly these things take time to build, because there's such a lot involved in each and every car. So how many will you do each year, do you think?
Yeah, so this factory is set up to do 120 cars a year. On the floor today we have 48, and then we have another unit, which is my old unit, which has a lot of the Range Rovers in. And we will be at capacity next year, and it would be lovely just to see this operating. And for me, one of the parts that I love about this business now is the efficiency in the production.
Yes.
So building prototypes, and I read this in Elon Musk's book, and I didn't believe it till we got to this phase, is easy.
Yes.
Going into production with a vehicle and actually signing a vehicle off to go around the world is hard. And we put so much work now into the engineering front over a production vehicle, over a prototype.
Yeah. And of course, David, these are old cars, so presumably when you acquire them, they're coming in all various different states. I'm just looking at this one here, and the paint is chipped and cracked, and you can see filler. So you really have to start at quite sort of various different stages. Most sort of manufacturing processes all start at A, but you might start at B or C, or even before that.
Yes, but we do one policy. We fully remaster and re-engineer every vehicle. So I don't do a conversion on someone's car that's in good condition. I will only take the car to a body-off restoration, nut and bolt. As you can see with the Phantom here, this is nearing the end of its restoration phase. We've taken a car which fundamentally looked as if it was this Phantom, but when you uncover the skin, they all tell a story. That's got a 60-year-old story to it, and you can see where they've reversed into bollards, or they've, and what happened with a lot of these vehicles, not specifically this one, but some of the standard Rolls Royce Clouds, is a Rolls Royce Cloud in its time dipped to quite a low price point. So when people were repairing these cars, they weren't necessarily spending the required money to repair the car properly, because if you had a Rolls Royce Cloud 10 years ago and it was a £10,000 car, and someone said to you at £60,000 to do a restoration on the vehicle and paint it, you would say, I want to do this for £6,000, and you'd end up doing it, what you say, sometimes a bodge job. And you'll see with some of these cars, they really have had some work done to them, and you can understand, because of their price point, this was done, but they are stapled together, some of them, but some of them are exquisite. So it really is understanding that they are all different, they all have their unique parts of the build, but the only way to know the product we've developed is to take every car back to that standard.
Back to bare metal. Yeah.
And you'll see as we walk through, so we've got 6 preparation bays on this side, fabrication bays on this side. And as we go into these rooms, you'll see the handcraft metal work, metal bending, pressing being done, and all of the woodwork that gets carried out. And these cars are hand built.
Yeah.
You know, there is no automated production line here. We're not using iron robots. This is hand to metal and hand to wood and hand craftsmanship. And it's such a fantastic process to watch.
As it was originally done, so it's quite poetic in a sense, isn't it?
Exactly, and it's we've got a real mix of individuals here. So some of the older guys and ladies here, they've come from originally working from Bentley and Rolls Royce, and they're bringing the skill set to them to teach the younger individuals here. And it's really fantastic seeing those two merge together, and the skill set just increased day on day.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about infrastructure, because obviously you guys control everything in your environment here. You're able to build this fantastic facility. But in terms of external factors and the infrastructure that we see sort of nationally and globally, you know, are we ready for it there? You know, how much of the infrastructure that we have currently, is that a challenge to the business?
Yeah, so, as you're aware, the infrastructure is being hugely invested into right now. And what people don't understand, or the first thing I didn't understand either when I first started this company, was you've got to understand the duty cycle of an individual or a fleet operator over the requirements of your driving. So when I started this company, I refused to drive an electric car till I built my first electric car, because I didn't want the comparison of what a Tesla S was.
Yes.
I matched it. I did an 80 kilowatt battery, same as a Tesla S at the time,
Yeah.
but I wanted to build the car and then test the cars together rather than understand, you know, how is a Tesla today, what are we trying to match? So we really went with a blank sheet of paper, how do we build the ultimate driving Jaguar? With obviously the parameters at which you're given. But you know, the infrastructure going in is vastly improving, and when you have the range of these cars, you realize that you don't actually drive that range. And you know, if you have the ability to charge at home, for example, you're always leaving your house in the morning with the equivalent of a full petrol tank.
Yes.
And I've only actually, and I don't drive huge long distances, but only driven more than a whole petrol tank twice in my life.
Yeah.
I went to Europe once, and I went to Scotland, and that's the only time
it's
that I've driven a whole petrol tank.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, but it's still there, isn't it? People are still getting range anxiety. How do you guys, you know, when you speak to your customers, how do you overcome that, or how do you address the range anxiety?
Yeah, you have it until you actually drive one of these vehicles and realize that you don't use the range.
Yeah.
And you know, when I first started driving the Jaguar, I was charging at every possible point. When I came to work, I would charge. When I went back home, I would charge.
Yeah.
Then I commute from London. I would drive up to Silverstone and drive back down to London in the Jaguar, and I wouldn't charge when I was here because you end up knowing that you're okay.
You don't
and
need to.
It's like you don't often fill up your car when it's 3/4 full.
No.
You know, well, some people do, and at
Well,
the moment everyone is.
Unfortunately, as we came up today, we're filming this amidst the fuel crisis, so it's very apt that we're here at Lunaz talking about electric vehicles, wishing that we had one today, I can tell you.
There are now more than 44,000 charge point connectors across the UK in over 16,000 locations. That's more public places to charge than petrol stations.
So when the sort of wider automotive community see you buying up these classic cars, is the reaction generally a positive one, or do you feel that you cop a bit of flack for what you guys are doing?
No, I've got to say, when I first founded the company, I presumed we would have a lot of flack for it. But the response has been incredible. You know, if you wanted to put it in percent terms, 99% of people have absolutely loved what we're doing, and it's because we're really respecting the original vehicle.
Yeah.
You know, when people come, and we had the Rolls Royce Enthusiast Club here recently, and you know, they are all about exquisite beauty of these cars and originality. But what they saw and witnessed here is actually the level of detail at which we're going to restore these cars to absolutely as they came out the factory. So yeah, here we have the Jaguar XK120, another fixed head coupe, which is about to go into paint. We do all of the painting, as I said, on site. It just allows us to have that quality control. We do various modifications which are by client request. So on this vehicle, we've done the bonnet with the louvers, just for a bit of customization, which really gives a bit of personalization to the vehicle. And when we go into the design studio later and you meet Jen, you'll realize just how bespoke these cars are.
Yeah.
And pretty much down to every thread, they get to make choices. So when you end up having this vehicle, it is a reflection of what you've wanted to create.
Yes.
And it's so lovely as you see that process take place.
I was saying to your colleague James earlier on, you know, certainly within the sort of luxury market now, it's become more and more difficult, or increasingly more difficult, to sort of be more of an individual. So what you've done here is sort of like unlocking a new level of luxury and choice for everybody. So
yeah, I've taken it to an experience that I would want to experience building a car.
Yeah.
You know, I would want, you know, the touch and feel and elements of these vehicles to really play a part in what I've designed.
Yeah.
And it's really lovely to see that to come to fruition, actually having the design studio in-house.
Do you think that some of the OEMs have sort of missed a trick here, in the sense that, you know, there clearly is a huge market for people wanting those bespoke services and wanting to have the panache of these old vehicles?
Well, you can see the OEMs, you know, they've pushed into, you've got the Q branch, you've got the SVO, and actually my head of design, Jen, used to be at Q branch Aston, and that bespoke tailoring's there, but with set choices, whereas here they're slightly more off the cuff. You really get to design the finer details, the inside of a glove box. You know,
Yeah.
that's
Oh, wow.
not something you would normally get to tailor.
That's
and,
incredible.
you know, there's certain elements and features that we bring in. So in the Rolls Royces, we use different materials like marble.
Yeah.
So you'd lift up the armrest, and on the telephone, you'd have the marble beneath it. And just small details that I personally love to incorporate into these vehicles, because that's what it was about when you designed a Rolls Royce in the 1960s.
Yes.
You know, they had exquisite taste and exquisite extras. When you look at some of the original cars that come in, Craftsmanship's unbelievable, and
Yeah.
you know, you're seeing what I call the Bumblebee, the yellow Rolls Royce at the back, which we haven't touched yet, but it's coming as a vehicle. It's got a shoe brush in the original wood, and it's just
incredible.
a fantastic touch that you would
Yeah.
never get in a modern car today.
Yeah. Old world charm with new world technology.
That is it. Yeah, so what you've done is you've timed your visit very well today, because it's something we're actually about to release, and the first 2 client vehicles have just arrived with us, and I think the third one is out on the forecourt. But what you have here is the Aston Martin DB6 that we are remastering.
That
And
is fantastic.
I say remastered because we're going to go above and beyond with this vehicle to
Yeah.
whatever we've done before. You know, everyone thinks of a DB5, it's the Bond car. The DB6, my daughter can sit in the back of. You know, you've got a rear compartment here. I think it's the most beautiful Aston in the world.
So has this one already been worked on, or is this
No, so
yet
this
to
is
have the
just
treatment?
this has just come in from the client, and so is the vehicle behind. And no, it is about to go through the entire process of what we do. So it is a body off, complete restoration, reimagining and remastering this vehicle from the ground up. So the process will be, we will corner weight the car, strip the components that are coming out, re-understand the weight dynamic of the vehicle, then 3D scan the car, then it will go up into the engineering office upstairs, and then it looks like the vehicle stops, and we will be in the engineering office for about 6 months building the entire vehicle, and then we will start the build up of the vehicles.
Right. So
And
that's
I'm
the kind-
really
that's the kind
excited
of-
for the Astons. This for me is the last, you know, British mark which I wanted to conquer. You obviously have the Rolls Royces, the Bentleys, Jaguars,
Yes.
Range Rovers, the flagship of
Yeah.
Lunaz now, the Aston Martin DB6.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations. That's fantastically exciting. So from the day this has come in today to this being out on the road as a Lunaz car is about 6 months? Is
No,
it, or
so
is it longer?
these will be delivered in mid-23.
Yeah.
So what you have is we build the prototype initially, then we go through a huge testing program of actually getting this car to a position that we're all happy to then go into production with that vehicle.
Yeah.
And then these vehicles will follow behind. So we'll start the work on the car because obviously the restoration process is exhaustive,
Yeah.
but then these will be delivered in mid-23. We really haven't really showed this side of the business off, and it's a surprise and delight when clients come here and realize these cars are correctly engineered.
Yes.
You know, there's 52 engineers up here
Yeah.
building the prototypes to go into production with. And as you look around the engineering office, we've just actually taken down the meeting room, hence the artwork's not up today. But you've got a mixture of pieces being worked on, whether it's dashboards, whether it's the powertrain elements, all the software developments done at the end of the office. And you've got everyone in one room communicating between, and it's just fantastic to see it all coming together. So what you have in here is what I say, the creative beauty.
Yeah.
And it goes from design into trim. And, you know, it really is a mixture of combining old, you know, original seats. So we've completely redone all of the springs internally.
Yeah.
We've restored every spring within that seat. Then you rebuild the seat up.
So this is a rear bench seat, is it?
Yeah, so this is for the Bentley S2, which is outside. All of the original wood being saved where necessary, but also replicated where we can't because
Yeah.
it is unfortunately rotted through.
That's lovely
But-
that you've gone to that kind of level of details, kind of really saving stuff where you can to keep the car as original as it was, and then where you need to, you're then kind of replicating that.
It's far easier to just put refoams and make modern seats out of these, but
Yeah.
you know, I think that's where the Rolls Royce Enthusiast Club, when I mentioned when they came round, they respect the level at which we're actually pulling these cars through. You know, this is all of the original material
Yeah.
upcycled through the process, but then giving a delivery of a seat like you saw in the Rolls Royce,
Yeah.
where the internals of that seat is from 1961.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, it's part of the process, and it's probably my favorite part of the process, all of the componentry that we carry across. And this really is, you know, the hand-to-skill craft. You've got the sewing machines in here. You've got seats that we're making in various materials. So this client requested animal-friendly products. We've used disused aluminium on the rear of the seats and very different materials, but non-leather. And then you've obviously got leather seats in trim as well. This is one of the Jaguar XK seats, but this is actually just a prototype. This is not the leather that it's going in. These are actually going into tan seats. We're just seeing how the leather plays because the clients requested a different weave leather down the middle that we haven't done before.
Yeah. That's great. So you can just see how that all sits and fits on there. That's
Yeah,
good,
exactly. So this is basically being done as a prototype in the same leather quality, but not in the tan that it will be finished in because we had limited supply, but just seeing how the pleats will sit with the weave leather because it's a material we hadn't used before. And she requested 3 lines down the middle, but then bolstered in the plain tan on the side. So she had that element of customization, whereas you see the XK seats over there are more in the original dynamic with the multiple pleats 8.
Yeah. And we've talked about sort of upcycling, and you're reusing materials from the original car. Are you finding you're getting more and more requests for use of different, more sort of environmentally friendly materials on particularly on sort of seat coverings, thinking of cows and leather and moving away from that perhaps?
You've got products here. For example, this one is actually probably my favorite product we have. So if you feel that carpet, that is a disused fishing net from the bottom of the ocean.
Oh, that's amazing.
And that is what I would say one of the ultimate upcycle products. Especially you see Seaconspiracy on Netflix at the moment.
Yeah.
We have a problem with fishing nets in the sea. What a great use.
That's fabulous.
And that is an amazing feeling carpet.
Yeah, really
that isn't
good
just,
quality.
oh, this is a green product and it's a option and not a, that is an
That is premium,
incredible
yeah.
product.
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
no, there's elements like this where we source the materials, which is just such a great experience for the designers to also go through because they're pushing the boundaries.
It's challenging
as
them
they
to
see.
find new materials, isn't it?
Exactly
Yeah,
that.
Brilliant.
And it doesn't stop there. The level of detail Lunaz go into is astonishing. If it can be saved, it'll be used. If not, it's fabricated in-house using modern material, some of which meets the highest aerospace standards. As you might expect, this level of attention to detail comes at a price. A Range Rover starts at $260,000, an XK 390, and the new Aston Martin DB6 starts at around £950,000. That might seem extortionate on the face of it, but when you see what goes into these cars firsthand and the man hours and care taken, you start to understand how that number notches up. And with the global tally of millionaires at around 56 million, there's no shortage of potential customers for their cars.
It's an amazing viewpoint to sort of come and stand up here and look down upon what you guys have achieved in such a short space of time. You must be incredibly proud, but I'm sure you're thinking about what's next. So what is next? What are you going to be kind of focusing on from here on in?
Yeah, I'm really proud of what the team's achieved here, but I've also got a very big picture in mind. And what you see here is Lunaz Design. We also have Lunaz Powertrain, which is based in the engineering office upstairs, which is the provider of the powertrain for Lunaz Design. And then you've got Lunaz Applied Technologies, where you've got the prototype bays over here, building 27-ton vehicles, which is looking at the commercial front, airport vehicles, refuse trucks, any specialist vehicles where we allocate the need to re-engineer these vehicles. And the same process as what we're doing with the Classics, upcycle those vehicles. As we transition from ICE to EV and potentially hydrogen, there's 2 billion vehicles on this planet. And what I want to answer is, which ones shouldn't we scrap? You cannot scrap 2 billion vehicles. A lot of these vehicles can be re-engineered for a future. And that's what we're looking at with Lunaz Applied Technology.
That's fantastic, because that sort of supports that whole circular economy, doesn't it? It's just not throwing things away. They don't need to be.
That's exactly it. And you've got to carry over all of the embedded carbon within those vehicles. And when you look at something like the refuse truck, you know, there is so much embedded carbon in the chassis and the cab, and we restore these components, and then we come out at a lower price point than the new EV alternative.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Lunaz Applied Technologies upcycles and converts heavy goods and industrial vehicles in response to changes in legislation and the global push towards zero-emissions powertrains. Building zero-emissions garbage trucks is far less appealing than Aston Martin's, so it's nice to see a company like Lunaz apply what they've learned for something that can actually have a far more important social impact than just providing toys for the super rich.
It's very easy to be seduced by what Lunaz has achieved here, breathing new life into these beautiful machines and supporting a circular economy. If you had the choice, which would you choose? Would it be one of these lovely Rolls Royce or perhaps a Range Rover? Let us know in the comments section below.
For many of us, the point of classic car ownership is about the experiences it gives us along the way. The weekends tinkering in the garage, the pursuit of originality and the nostalgia of the driving experience. But let's face it, we could all do without the reliability issues and bills that come with that ownership experience. And the fact is, we don't all share the affliction of petrol mania. In fact, we're in the minority. Most people couldn't tell an E-Type from an XK. They just like how it looks. And think of it this way, there might come a point when you can't drive your classic car where you want to. And when that time comes, do you want to be driving a generic electric car or something with new world technology and the grace and panache of a car penned by Sir William Lyons?